Imagine being 17 years old, standing on the stage of the most famous ballet theater in the world, hearing the audience applaud while your dream is finally coming true. But what if I told you that after the applause ended, another performance began? One that no one ever talks about. Behind the glittering chandeliers of the Bolshoi Theater, behind the elegant costumes and standing ovations, there was a hidden system. A system where young ballerinas paid a price for success that had nothing to do with dance. And I know this because I lived it. The first time I walked into that room at a country house belonging to a high-ranking official, I understood immediately that something was wrong. 4 couches stood in a row. Crystal glasses sparkled on a small table. And behind me, the guard quietly locked the door. I was 19 years old, and in that moment I realized a terrible truth. Sometimes dancing on the stage of the Bolshoi Theater has a price far greater than talent. My story began long before that night. I was 13 when I stood outside the Moscow Choreographic School of the Bolshoi Theater with my mother. We had taken a night train from the small city of Tula. Thousands of girls from all over the Soviet Union had come to audition, but only 20 would be accepted. The selection was ruthless. The commission didn't look at us like children with dreams. They looked at us like merchandise. They measured the length of our legs, checked our flexibility, our posture, the proportions of our bodies. Even if you danced like an angel, if your body wasn't perfect, you were sent home. Somehow, I passed. Out of thousands, only 20 girls were chosen. I thought I had just entered a fairy tale. But the fairy tale quickly turned into something else. Ballet was pain, discipline, and constant fear. We woke up at 6 every morning. Training lasted until late evening. Our weight was checked constantly. If you were over 45 kilograms, you were called fat. Our feet bled inside point shoes. Our muscles hurt so badly that sometimes we couldn't get out of bed. But we endured everything because the stage of the Bolshoi Theater was the greatest dream we had. By the end of the first year, only 16 of us remained. Some left because of injuries. Some simply broke under the pressure. That was when something strange appeared in our lives. The best students, we were told, would perform at private concerts for high-ranking party officials. It was described as a great honor and a huge opportunity for our future careers. We believed them. The first girl from our room who went to one of those events was Svetlana. When she came back the next morning, she lay on her bed facing the wall and cried for hours. She refused to explain anything. A week later, she was suddenly promoted and promised a leading role in a performance. I didn't understand the connection then. A year later, my name appeared on the list. We were told we would perform at a reception in the Kremlin for members of the Soviet leadership. Before leaving, I had to sign a document promising not to talk about anything I saw or heard. I thought it was just a formality. The concert itself was beautiful. We danced under enormous chandeliers in front of powerful men whose faces I recognized from newspapers and television. After the performance, we were invited to a banquet. The officials approached us politely, praised our dancing, offered champagne, talked about art and travel. One of them, an older man with a calm voice, suggested showing me a private collection of paintings in another room. I agreed. When we entered the room, he locked the door. There were no paintings. He looked at me and said calmly, "Everyone goes through this. If you want a career, be smart." At 17 years old, I finally understood what those concerts really meant. The next day, I was offered a leading role in a Bolshoi production. That was when I began to see the system clearly. Talented ballerinas were invited to perform at private receptions for the elite. After the concert came the second part of the evening. The girls were selected, invited to private rooms. Those who agreed received roles, apartments, foreign tours, and money. Those who refused suddenly developed injuries, were expelled from the school, or simply disappeared from the list of promising dancers. I chose the stage, and with it, the price. For 20 years, I lived 2 completely different lives. During the day, I danced leading roles at the Bolshoi Theater. Audiences stood and applauded. Critics wrote about my brilliance. My parents were proud of me, but at night, I was sent to private receptions on the country estates of powerful men. Some girls couldn't survive it. One of my classmates tried to kill herself after her first concert. Others started drinking heavily. We learned a strange psychological trick. We divided ourselves into two people. One existed on stage, alive and full of passion. The other was just a silent body waiting for the night to end. Eventually, I got married and had a daughter. I hoped everything would stop. But the system didn't care. I was told directly, if you want to dance on the main stage of the country, you must remain loyal. Years passed. Then the Soviet Union collapsed. Everyone believed the old system was finished, but nothing truly changed. The same people remained powerful, only now they called themselves businessmen. The receptions continued, just in different houses, with different titles. That was when I finally decided to leave. I resigned from the Bolshoi Theater and refused to attend those events ever again. A week later, I lost my apartment. Someone powerful had made a phone call. My daughter and I moved into a tiny room in a communal apartment on the outskirts of Moscow. To survive, I took a job as a cleaner in the same theater where I had once been a star. Sometimes I washed the floors in the hallway and heard tour guides telling visitors about the great ballerina Lydia Solovyova. Young girls would look at my old photograph on the wall and ask where she was now. The guide usually shrugged and said, "No one knows, perhaps she died long ago." And in a way, he was right. That ballerina really did die many years ago. The woman who remained was someone else entirely, someone who had finally chosen freedom. And strangely enough, a tiny room in a communal apartment felt far more honest than all the grand halls where thousands of people once applauded my name.